Good Thursday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We'll talk a little Tribe later. Indians with a day off. They will have a three-game weekend series in Baltimore that they'll open up tomorrow. We will also be joined by Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Tribe's AAA affiliate Columbus Clippers, a little bit later in the show. But we begin by talking Cleveland Browns football. OTAs underway out in Berea. And a decent turnout in person for the Browns. Kevin Stefanski talked about one of the Browns draft picks, one of the later round picks, Demetric Felton, an interesting rookie.
Yeah, versatility is a big deal. Demetric played running back and wide receiver previously in college. He's done both with us already. He's been in both meetings. There's been times where he's a running back for that day and a wide receiver the next day. So it does speak to his versatility. It speaks to his ability to mentally handle that. And versatility is a big deal, like we mentioned.
Let's welcome in Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com, Dan Labbe. Dan, you were a guy that you liked Felton. You thought it was kind of interesting. And Kevin Stefanski reinforces the thought, I think, in just what the Browns are thinking with Felton.
It sounded a lot, and it reminded me a lot of what the Browns are trying to do with Duke Johnson a few years ago when they were sort of putting him in different meeting rooms. And he kind of was lobbying to be a wide receiver a little bit with Hugh Jackson. It just reminded me of that. When we show up to practice on Wednesday, it was our first open practice of OTAs. There's Demetric Felton, much like Duke Johnson used to, working with the wide receivers, going through individual work. And, you know, what I really liked was he put a couple balls on the ground early, but he made some nice catches when they went to some of the late teamwork. I'm really curious to see how they're going to use him, because the nice thing about a lot of these rookies, especially on the offensive side with him and Schwartz, is they're not going to need to be on the field for a ton of snaps. They can have different packages and different roles where, you know, they can come on the field for 10, 15 snaps and make an impact on the game and really cause problems for a defense.
The other thing that just in what you're saying with Felton, that would seem to, you look for mismatches with him, and Kevin Stefanski has a number of guys that he can try to match up to create mismatches with the defense on that offense.
Yeah, I think that's why you really like him, especially as a rookie, is when he walks on the field, like some other guys on this offense, but him especially, he could line up in the backfield. He could motion out wide. He could run a route out of the backfield. He can carry the football. And he's a guy that when the football is in his hands, he can make big plays. You go back and watch his highlights at UCLA, and you see some of what he did in the Senior Bowl. This guy's pretty polished for a player who is kind of touted as Mr. Versatile. Sometimes when you get these super versatile guys, they aren't real polished in one area. But as a route runner, as a receiver, I think he's a really nice piece for this team.
So a lot of the defensive players in town for OTAs, and one of the veterans, Anthony Walker, a linebacker, talked a lot about him. Then when the draft class came, you know, the focus kind of shifted from Walker to the draft class. Well, Anthony Walker had this to say about rookie linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Elite athlete, you know, as far as you know, explosiveness, quickness, speed, instincts, all that stuff. He has it, all the tools. Now, you know, it's all about, you know, transition the game to the NFL level as a linebacker. You know, I think, you know, I struggle with it. You know, we all struggle with it, you know, coming in from college, and, you know, now you're seeing pro style offense and understanding different route concepts and all that stuff. So again, just the very beginning, you know, he's a freak of nature and athletically just trying to piece it all together. You know, as far as the knowledge of the game and all that stuff, and he's getting better each day. You know, he made a play today that you know, that he probably wouldn't have made 2 weeks ago. So just picking up the pace and learning, you know, different tools and different things that he could use and have in his repertoire. I think he's learning that. He's getting better each day. Kind of reminds me, you know, like a lot of people, Darius Leonard, you know, just a guy, you know, just learning how to, you know, really, really understand the game of linebacker rather than just run a hit. You know, I love that. I mean, everybody loves to run a hit as a linebacker, but, you know, the NFL game is a little different. You know, you got to start piecing things together, open up your vision a little bit more. And he's getting better. We all are working on the same thing. So just happy to see him go through that process. You know, like I told him, you know, it's a one day at a time. You literally take one day and find something to get better at, and you keep getting better each day, and he'll piece it all together. I have no doubt in my mind that he'll be a great player in this league.
Pretty good seal of approval there from a decent linebacker who's been in the league a little bit too.
And he compared him to Darius Leonard, which is about as high a compliment as you can get for a guy that played next to Leonard for a long time. And, Leonard, too, was kind of a guy that slid in the draft and came in and had a really almost an instant impact. And, Owusu-Koramoah, you still kind of look at him and he looks like, are you sure that guy's a linebacker or is it really a safety? But again, that's what you like about him. Like we talked about with Dimitri Felton, that versatility, the ability to do a lot of things. I'm excited to see what he can do. And even though Anthony Walker said there's more to his game than this, remember on draft night, Koramoah said he loves to tackle. And I think that's what Browns fans are really going to like about him.
That is something that in the middle of the field, chasing down quarterbacks, Browns fan, if Koramoah does that, Browns fans are going to love him.
Yeah, I think Browns fans have seen enough linebackers just slide off ball carriers and not be able to bring guys down. Covering tight ends, it's going to be important. Maybe Travis Kelce makes a catch on you, but if you can bring him down for a shorter gain and not let him catch and run, that's big. You mentioned the quarterbacks. Go get Lamar Jackson. Go get Patrick Mahomes. Go get Kyler Murray. That's where Owusu-Koramoah is going to be really, really important for this football team because they've got a lot of quarterbacks on this schedule that can make plays happen with their legs.
Now, you were out at OTAs, and I know you wrote about this. What are some takeaways from the OTAs that you had?
Felton was a big one, sort of how they're going to use him and the different roles for him and the fact that they're already expanding that. So they're throwing a lot at him right away. And that's something this coaching staff has never been scared to do. They did it with Jedrick Wills last year. They're doing it with Felton this year. Anthony Walker is another guy that I'm really intrigued by because it still feels to me like even with Owusu-Koramoah brought in, some guys from last year coming back, Malcolm Smith, Jacob Phillips, you drafted Tony Fields as well. That linebacker room is so crowded. I still feel like you brought in Anthony Walker for a reason, and that's to be sort of the hub of the linebacking group. And he's going to be the guy most likely wearing the green sticker. He'll play a lot of snaps. I think the middle of this defense is going to revolve a lot around Anthony Walker. And he sort of became the forgotten man because you did add all these pieces and everybody falls in love with the draft picks and some of the big name free agents. But I think he's an upgrade from BJ Goodson, who had a nice season last year. I think Walker can be an upgrade there. And I think we're going to see a lot of him on the football field this year. For all the talk of the other linebackers, I think everything revolves around him in that group.
He's a guy that's done it, and by all accounts, you mentioned the green sticker, and that's the guy that's responsible for calling the plays. And the Browns have a number of guys who are used to doing that in John Johnson and Anthony Walker. That should be a huge advantage to Joe Woods because you have a number of guys who can see things, relate things, and help out diagnosing things, at the snap, pre-snap.
Yeah, and it's really important at the safety position. Like you mentioned with John Johnson, it's really important to have that guy who's kind of behind everything and can point out what he's seeing and can line guys up correctly. So now you've got Anthony Walker in the middle who has that ability. And I would assume he's going to wear the green sticker, but who knows? Maybe it is going to be John Johnson. But the thing is, those two guys will be on the field a lot. There's a chance there's going to be games where those two guys play every single snap, especially John Johnson, where he plays every single defensive snap. And just having those guys out there and having their minds out there to make sure a lot of these young guys are where they're supposed to be, it takes a lot of burden off the coaching staff, allows them to do, to really be teachers and not be afraid to throw out a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah because he's going to have guys all around him that are going to instruct him and tell him what to do.
All right, Dan Labbe and I, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, so we continue talking Browns on the other side of the break. Myles Garrett talks about the OTA and in-person attendance. We'll also hear from a national guy from ESPN thinks the Browns have the best roster in the AFC. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football. Browns in Berea for OTAs. A number of guys in town for in-person. There's also a virtual component of it. Not as many guys for the Browns as other teams. Myles Garrett was asked about the Browns' in-person percentage versus the Chiefs, who have almost all of their players in person at OTAs.
Not at all. I'm glad they have attendance, but just because they're getting work at their facility doesn't mean we're not working just because we're away. Our defense is getting work. Our guys are working on their craft just away from home. We have that freedom and that liberty. And when we get to game one, we'll see who has been gelling better and who's got the upper hand.
Let's bring back in Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. And Dan, too much made of that, do you think, in-person versus virtual as far as OTAs go?
I do think that this is one of those things where in the NFL calendar, we're always looking for, what's next and kind of what's the story, and taking attendance in OTAs is certainly a part of that. I think there's things you can accomplish in person, and certainly having guys there and working together and being in meeting rooms together. Of course, you can't really even do that right now. Everything on that front is still virtual, but being on the field together, I think it can help. But if the Browns go out week one and get beat by the Chiefs, I don't think it's going to be because they didn't have a full squad in attendance in the spring. I think it is one of those things that we put a lot of weight in, but really so much of the stuff we talk about really gets built in training camp. When you're there for all those weeks starting at the end of July and you're out in the heat and you have those long days together, that's really when that gelling and bonding happens. So a lot of this stuff is just smaller things. I don't think it's going to play any role in who wins or loses that week one game.
Well, ESPN on their Get Up show discussed who was the main challenger for the Chiefs. The Chiefs, the prohibitive favorite in the AFC. Jeff Saturday, longtime player, had this to say about the top contender as the challenger in the AFC for the Chiefs.
Jeff Saturday, which team do you think is the biggest threat to Kansas City in the AFC?
I'm going to go the Browns. And listen, what Myles Garrett is saying is true, right? It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And he believes this team is poised to make a step. I would say it all hinges on Baker Mayfield, right? Odell Beckham Jr.'s coming back. Will his health really matter for Mayfield? They can run the ball with Chubb and Hunt. They have a good offensive line. Obviously, with Garrett and Clowney now on the edges, what will that do for this defense? It will get better. I think they are poised to take a step towards the Chiefs. Can they unseat them? Not sure, but I think I had the best opportunity at this point.
Dan Labbe, what do you make of that?
They belong in that discussion. I've said this. We're going to see lots and lots of national people are going to get on this bandwagon and put this take out there like it's some sort of extreme hot take. But the Browns are a very talented team. I saw a tweet from Warren Sharp a couple days ago that they have the most expensive offense in football. They've got this great offensive line. They've got all these receivers. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are as good as anybody. The defense is upgraded. I think it's going to take some time. Again, there's a chance we might come out of week one and the Chiefs might just be a better team, but it doesn't matter what happens in week one. Matters what happens at the end of January. And I think by the end of January, the Browns are going to belong in that discussion as a team that can unseat the Chiefs. They should be right there. If you're going to throw out the Bills, the Ravens, whoever else, you should at least entertain the idea that the Browns are in that discussion too.
Yeah, the point was made that the Browns have the best. Saturday went on to say he thought the Browns had the best roster in the AFC and were a close second to the Buccaneers as far as the roster goes in the NFL.
And so much of it comes down to what is Jadeveon Clowney? Is he the player that that was maybe in Seattle a couple of years ago, and of course what we saw in Houston, or is he more what we saw in Tennessee last year, where he dealt with injuries and just wasn't the player they envisioned? What do they do at that other corner, Greg Newsome and Greedy Williams? Are those guys going to be able to complement Denzel Ward? And how long does it take for that defense and Joe Woods to sort of figure everything out? So much of this stuff can only be figured out when you get out there on Sundays and you kind of are run through that fire a little bit and have to fix things and adjust things. So they have the potential to have a roster as good as Kansas City. And on the offensive side, I don't think they have the full complement of weapons that Kansas City has. And of course they have Patrick Mahomes, but I don't think they're that far behind where the Chiefs are offensively.
So there are 3 questions that face the Browns offense according to BrownsNation.com. First question, is the offensive game plan predictable?
I think it got a little predictable last year. And part of that was not having Odell Beckham, and they just didn't have a big downfield threat. You were relying really on Donovan Peoples-Jones, a 6th-round pick, to be your downfield threat, and he's just not ready to be that guy yet. So I thought they got a little bit predictable. You saw it. The Chiefs were able to kind of limit what they did because they just sort of played everything close to the line. They made sure Jarvis Landry, he caught a bunch of passes, but he didn't really hurt the Chiefs with any of those catches. And they were able to make sure that Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt didn't do anything to them. So I think they did get a little predictable, which is why I think we'll see a very different, well, I don't want to say very different, but we'll see some wrinkles this year. We'll see more 11 personnel. We might even see some 4 receiver sets, which was not even really on the table at all last year. They're going to be able to get creative. And I don't think we're just going to see this, heavy personnel over and over again this season.
So the second question, are there too many receivers to incorporate into a game plan?
It depends on the receivers and how they feel about it, because there are going to be guys that are going to get left out of this. But having all these weapons is why you can have different wrinkles in this offense. It's why you can have Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the field one play, and then you can go 4 wide the next, and then 2 or 3 tight ends on the next play. All of that versatility is actually a really good thing. And it's how you become unpredictable as an offense. The only question is, if Donovan Peoples-Jones wants to be on the field more, is he okay with maybe being the odd man out every now and again? Is Rashard Higgins okay? If they want to have a faster wide receiver core some week, is he going to be all right sitting on the sideline and maybe only playing 50% of the offensive snaps? That's really what it comes down to. As far as game planning and scheming, I trust Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt to be able to use these guys to the best of their ability. They just got to make sure these receivers are happy when there are games when, quite frankly, they might not be in the game plan.
Third one is, can Baker improve?
I think he can. And I think it goes back to Alex Van Pelt and Kevin Stefanski really understanding him. Last year during the bye week, they made a bunch of adjustments. They got him out of the pocket more. They started doing more play action, which is really what we expected coming into the season. And they didn't do it quite as much early in the year. And so I think kind of knowing Baker Mayfield more and him knowing them more, being able to sit down with him and figure out what he likes, what he doesn't like, and what works and doesn't work, I think he is going to improve. And I think he's got lots of confidence. He's never lacking for confidence. But I think being in this scheme for a second year and the coaching staff really understanding everything about him, that you've got to see a better Baker Mayfield this year. And he was pretty good to end the season last year.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for The Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we hear from you. Voicemail, the truth and reason about the Browns being America's team. We'll also take a look at Pro Football Focus rankings for the running back tandems and also the wide receiver groups. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to try-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
COVID-19 has changed how we show up and show out with our family. Now it's time to take the first step that lets us get back to talking smack with a side of mac and cheese. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts. As COVID-19 vaccines become available, you may have questions. Should I get it? Is it safe?
Should I wait?
It's smart to question. Now, get the facts at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football. Yesterday, we heard Jim Rome driving the bandwagon, the self-proclaimed driver of the bandwagon for the Browns as America's team. This time, we have a voicemail of truth and reason dealing with that topic.
The Browns have been America's team for more than 20 years. If you check it out, the Browns backers clubs are scattered all over America. They're scattered all over the world. Really, the Browns are the world's team. So Rome's just jumped on a bandwagon that's been there for a long, long time.
Let's bring back in Dan Labbe. And Dan, there are Browns backers all over the world. Whenever they play in London, we hear quite a bit from them. But yeah, Jim Rome's point was America wants to see this Browns team.
I think they really do. Right, they've got all these personalities that are really exciting, especially with Odell Beckham back. Baker Mayfield is always going to be someone. Love him or hate him, people are going to want to see him and watch him play and hear him talk and quote TV shows and movies after games. They've got all this personality. Jarvis, Myles Garrett. I think people are starting to really kind of get to know him. On the other side of it, you've got the analytics community. They all love the Browns because they're building this team in the vision that they've always wanted to see a football team built. So if this team comes out and they win football games and who knows, they beat the Chiefs week 1 and they get off to a hot start, that bandwagon is going to fill up because there's so many elements to this team that I think football fans are going to fall in love with. And on top of all of it, this is the Browns, who are the ultimate underdog story, who haven't won anything, since 1964, and they've been a joke since 1999. I mean, it's got all these elements to just be essentially a Disney movie.
And don't forget about the fan base that America seems to love as well. All right, Pro Football Focus. Speaking of analytics-driven website, ranked the running back units for the NFL, and this doesn't surprise me. Browns ranked number 1, Colts 2, Saints 3, Vikings 4, Cowboys 5. It would seem the Browns might even be distancing themselves with what they've added to that running back unit as well.
Right, I think they're far and away number 1, and it starts with Nick Chubb for obvious reasons. But when we talk about Kareem Hunt, this is a guy that really is that multifaceted back, that if he were a featured back somewhere, we'd be talking about him, maybe not to the level of like a Christian McCaffrey or, a Saquon Barkley when he's healthy and all the things those guys can do. But Kareem Hunt has that type of skill set. He can run the ball well, but he can be used as a receiver. He can put up, all these all-purpose yards, and that's what so many teams love today. This is a guy that probably, under normal circumstances, would have just signed a big extension with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's how valuable he is. So the Browns really have essentially 2 number 1 backs in their backfield, and not just, Kareem Hunt's not just, a number 1 back on an okay offense. He could be a driving force behind an offense. That's how good he is.
And then you add a guy like Demetric Felton, who we talked about earlier, and that just kind of adds to the depth and what you can potentially do with that group.
Yeah, it's all those little wrinkles. And it's another guy that, when Nick Chubb's on the field, you kind of know what he's going to do. He's gotten a little better in the passing and screen game, but you kind of know what Nick Chubb is. When Kareem Hunt comes on the field, who knows? He could split out wide. He could carry the football. He runs so hard. And now you got Demetric Felton, who can do a lot of the same things. When you see him come on the field, a defense has to think, okay, what are they going to do with him? Are they going to hand him the ball, throw him the ball? It's just so many different things that a defense has to account for.
Yeah, and the flip side of it is that offensive line is really good, and you might know what Nick Chubb's going to do, but doesn't mean you're going to stop him.
Yeah, that's what makes him so great. When he's on the field, they're probably going to hand him the football, but good luck stopping him. And I thought last year when they brought this offense in, this was such a perfect marriage of runner and scheme, because Nick Chubb just thrives in this type of offense. We talk about how, a guy like Kyle Shanahan can plug any back into this offense and he's successful. And I think that's true, but Nick Chubb is a different level. Nick Chubb is the type of guy that can put up 1,500 yards, maybe even 2,000 yards if he had a Derrick Henry type of workload to work with. He just fits this scheme perfectly. He figures out where he wants to go. He makes a cut and he goes. And then when he gets to that second level, he's impossible to bring down.
So PFF also ranked the receiving corps. Buccaneers were 1, Cowboys 2, Chiefs 3, Bills 4, Vikings 5, Browns 13th, right behind the Bengals, which seems a little low, but.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're looking at specifically. And I think, I love the Bengals' weapons at receiver. And I think when you look at their room all the way across the board, so not just the top of it, I think that's where you would make the case that the Bengals have a better receiving room and some of these other teams. The Browns are a little bit top heavy with Odell and Jarvis, and some of it depends on how you feel about Jarvis Landry too. And obviously everybody here in Cleveland loves him for good reason. I think when you get to see him play every week and you're around him, you understand his value. Maybe from the outside looking in, it can be a little harder to quantify some of those numbers. But I think with the Browns, it's just, okay, Rashard Higgins is a nice player, but I don't know if he's as appreciated outside of Cleveland as he is in. Donovan Peoples-Jones is still a young player. There's just some unknowns, I think, in this receiver room. So that's why maybe the Browns are a little lower. But I would take that top 3 of Beckham, Landry, and Higgins any day.
Yeah, and the surprising thing is Higgins ranked pretty high as far as PFF went. Their ranking of him was pretty high a season ago. So it's just kind of interesting. Dan Labbe and I, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer, we're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Dan has written an article, Which Second-Year Player Will Make the Biggest Impact? We'll dive into that when Sports4CLE continues. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Thanks for hanging with us on Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Browns football with Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, Dan Labbe. Dan, you wrote an article about which second-year players will make the biggest impact. Let's kind of go through that and just some of the things you thought and how you arrived at some of the things that you wrote about.
I thought Grant Delpit was an easy brainer or a no-brainer, number one there at safety, considering what his role was going to be last year before he got hurt. And then, he's at a position that's so important. The Browns have invested so much in it. Going back to drafting him after he got hurt, they traded a 5th-round draft pick for Ronnie Harrison. They signed John Johnson and paid him a bunch of money. They value the safety position. So I think he is an easy number one choice right there if we're ranking these guys. And then I put Jedrick Wills number 2. And when I originally wrote it, I had him lower. And I thought, wait a second, this is the left tackle, the guy protecting Baker Mayfield's blind side. He'll be expected to be better this year with a full off season and not making that transition from right to left anymore. Another year under Bill Callahan. So I think he's a guy that, you kind of forget about, which is a good thing for an offensive lineman. So I had him number 2. And then number 3, I went with Jacob Phillips. There were a number of guys here that you really could have put Jordan Elliott or Harrison Bryant, but I think Jacob Phillips is going to have something to say in that linebacker battle. And I think he'll get on the field, and he's versatile. He's a little bigger than he's in the 230s weight-wise, so he can play the middle if he wants, but he's athletic enough to play on the outside. I think he can be a little bit of a thumper. And in a room with a lot of guys who sort of focus on coverage, having that guy, I think, is going to be helpful to this defense.
Let's talk a little bit about Wills. Now, Wills is a guy that Pro Football Focus didn't grade very highly, but when I watched, the Browns and watched them a lot, and same as you, I was never going, man, they got to do something with left tackle, which I think is a compliment to the rookie.
I think that was the biggest thing. You didn't come away from last year thinking they blew that pick. You came away thinking that there's still a chance this guy could really develop into a franchise left tackle. And, I'm not one to know all the nuances of the position and what a guy is supposed to do on every single play. But I was surprised how low PFF graded him, because the bottom line is he came in, made the move from right to left, and he did what he was supposed to do. And there were certainly some plays where, could he have done a better job? Of course. But as long as he stabilized that position last year and now just gets better and better as he goes along in his career, I think they got exactly what they needed out of Jedrick Wills last year. And I think the upside is still there.
And the other thing is Bill Callahan was a guy who put his seal of approval on picking him. And that's a pretty good guy to have in your corner if you are an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and Bill Callahan is so important to the development of all of these guys, but especially Jedrick Wills on that left side, and then Wyatt Teller at guard. Those two guys really, I think, when all is said and done, they're going to look back at their time with Bill Callahan and really appreciate what he taught them. And again, with Wills, I think it's so important that he's going to have a full training camp with the rest of this offensive line, with Bill Callahan. He's played left tackle now. He understands all the nuances, all the little bits and pieces. He's going to be going against some familiar opponents again, which is always important on the offensive line. I think all of that adds up to him making a lot of progress this year.
So number 4 on your list, you had Donovan Peoples-Jones. Again, it was second-year players that will make the biggest impact. What did you think about Donovan Peoples-Jones?
He's a tough one, and it kind of goes with what we talked about earlier about how many, can they keep all the receivers happy? Do they have too many receivers? And I don't know specifically what Donovan Peoples-Jones' role will be, but when I look at that receiver room, I don't see a lot of guys who are 6'3", 215, 220 pounds. He's a little bit bigger, but he's still got that ability to get downfield. I think Baker Mayfield trusts him, which is really important. I think Baker Mayfield is a big trust quarterback. It's why Rashard Higgins and Jarvis Landry are so successful with him. I think Peoples-Jones will have a role in this receiver room, and it might be a little bigger than people expect, because I do think that we're going to see more receivers on the field, and I think there's going to be opportunities for him. I just don't know exactly what that's going to look like. But look, he had something like 14 catches last year, but you don't have to rack your brain very hard to remember 3 or 4 of them. And that tells me this is a guy that can make an impact.
And again, a late-round pick that showed up his rookie year. Harrison Bryant is the next guy that you had on that list. And he's an intriguing guy.
He is, and he struggled in the second half last year, and I feel like David Njoku might have passed him a little bit in the second half, but that's okay. Tight end is a tough position for a rookie. He was a 4th-round pick. It's not going to be easy. It's not like this guy was the number 10 pick in the draft and comes in with that pedigree. It takes time for these players to develop. A group of 5 guy. I want to see how he bounces back. He had some fumbles in the second half last year. I do think he lost a little bit of that trust from the coaching staff and maybe a little bit from the quarterback, but he can get it back. And again, here's a guy who another offseason, knowing the system, knowing what his role is going to be, it's going to be important for him.
So you also had Jordan Elliott and Nick Harris on that list. Let's shift our focus just a little bit. NFL.com, most underappreciated player on each and every team. For the Browns, Wyatt Teller.
Yeah, I don't think he's underappreciated in Cleveland, though. I mean, Browns fans love their guards. I mean, Joel Bitonio's been one of the most popular Browns since he's been here. Wyatt Teller maybe nationally is underappreciated. I would make the case for Jack Conklin being a little bit underappreciated. There's a world where you could say Jack Conklin was actually this team's best offensive lineman last year. It might have been him or Joel Bitonio. So Wyatt Teller's a good choice on a national level, but I do feel like Browns fans almost kind of forgot about Jack Conklin and how good he was on that right side. For as much as we talked about Jedrick Wills stabilizing the left side, Jack Conklin was really important to this team and sort of gets forgotten sometimes. So I would make the case that maybe it's the guy one spot over from Teller who's the most underappreciated.
And I think you're right. I think Browns fans absolutely fell in love with Wyatt Teller, the big guy that likes to maul and was knocking people over. And you saw Nick Chubb running behind him quite a bit.
Yeah, and Tyrann Mathieu certainly, got Tyrann Mathieu's attention last year. There was that clip going around from NFL Films where Tyrann Mathieu got pancaked by Wyatt Teller, and he had something to say to his teammates as he walked back to the huddle. So Teller, I'm really excited to see how he develops this year. His pass blocking needs to get better, but again, Bill Callahan's going to make him better. He did it last offseason, and he's going to do it again this offseason.
And this offensive line, if they do what everybody expects them to do, it should mean good things for this offense in general.
And the continuity is so important. All 5 of these guys have played together, and you don't always get that in today's NFL with so much player movement and free agency. And eventually this line is probably going to get too expensive to keep guys together. You'll see a Nick Harris step in at center maybe down the road, something like that. But you've got those stalwarts in the middle with J.C. Tretter and Joel Bitonio. You discovered Wyatt Teller. You got your bookends, and all these guys get to play together again. And I think, back when the Browns had that really great line with Joe Thomas and all those guys in like 2014, kind of that area, what made them so good was they knew each other so well. And that's going to be the case with this group.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. As always, Dan, appreciate the time and the insight. I'm sure we will be talking again as OTAs continue. Thanks very much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right, Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We shift our attention to the Indians. Indians had the rain out yesterday, a day off. They head to Baltimore to start a weekend series on the road. Pitching, always a question with some of the injuries. We'll hear from Carl Willis, Indians pitching coach, when Sports for CLE continues. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We shift our attention to the Indians. Tried with the day off after that rain out yesterday. They will head to Baltimore, open up a 3-game weekend series against the Orioles tomorrow night. It will be the first career start in the major leagues for J.C. Mejia. Now, Mejia has pitched in the bullpen and has actually pitched pretty well. He's gone 5 innings, no earned runs, 1 hit, 7 strikeouts, and most importantly, just 1 walk. Pitching coach Carl Wills explains why the Tribe and Terry Francona wanted to give Mejia the opportunity to start.
JC obviously has been a starter in his minor league career, and when he first was recalled, had actually been built up to 75 pitches or so. That opportunity for him to stay stretched out hasn't presented itself. But I think in a short look, 3 to 4 outings, he's certainly competed very, very well. He's attacked the strike zone with quality pitches, quality stuff. And, our thought all along, Joe, has been that, he could potentially be a guy to insert himself and get into this rotation. So just feeling like with coming off of back-to-back doubleheaders, strenuous bullpen, to give him the opportunity today to start the game, go out and give us 50, 55 pitches, maybe allows Tito a little more flexibility to navigate through the bullpen, who, they've obviously had a lot of work over the past few days. But just feeling like JC is deserving of the chance, has performed to the caliber of work that he deserves an opportunity to maybe see how it plays out as a starter and build him up and maybe insert him in that role.
Well, and the Indians are without question looking for answers in that rotation. Behind Aaron Savali and Justin and Shane Bieber, there isn't a whole lot back there. The Indians are trying to find some answers with Plesac on the shelf with the injury. The 4 and 5 starters in the rotation have been question marks pretty much all season long between Tristan Mckenzie, who's been sent down, and also Logan Allen, who was sent down. One guy that has been pretty good in the bullpen and also very good in the limited start that he had is Cal Quantrill. Now, Quantrill has thrown 30 1/3 innings of work, an 0-1 record with a 2.20 earned run average in that relief and 1 start. 25 hits and 25 strikeouts and just 11 walks in those 30 1/3 innings. Carl Willis talked about what they like in Cal Quantrill.
Cal, it's an aggressive mindset. When he comes into the game, whether it was out of the bullpen or even with his start the other day, when he just has that aggressive attack mindset, his stuff really plays. He can sink the ball at high velocities. His changeup play, his slider is the one pitch that I think has continued to improve, and we saw it very much improve, in the game that he started. It's really keeping things simple for him and having him go out and just attack guys regardless of the role. He can be efficient and he can pile up some quick outs.
So Cal Quantrill, a guy that they may look to in that rotation potentially if Sam Hentges doesn't start seeing some improvement. Now, one guy that the Indians sent down, Tristan Mckenzie, he's come up and because of the timing and the injuries and the like and the extra player with the doubleheaders. He has actually pitched a couple of times since being sent down. And Carl Willis and the Indians have seen some positive signs from Mckenzie in those last 2 starts.
Just trusting his stuff in the strike zone, not to overuse that aggressive, topic that I'm talking about with Cal, but, in talking with Tristan after his start, I don't know what even day it was, Monday, Sunday, everything runs together a little bit right now, but, the second inning he fell behind a couple of hitters and, things kind of got a little squirrely there. I thought it was huge that he was able to reset himself after he got out of that inning and he came back out, got back in the strike zone, continued to trust it. Obviously, we saw a pretty good string of strikeouts there, which, that's not what we expect to see each and every time out. But again, it just proved to him that doesn't have to be so fine. He doesn't have to be pitchy, if you will. He has some pitches. He has a mix. Just be aggressive in the zone. I think, they're delivering things that he is working on and continuing to improve. But at the same time, young pitchers, a lot of times the mindset, hey, they're confident. They're going to tell you they're confident, but they do have to prove themselves to themselves. And I think he's starting to realize that.
Important thing about Tristan Mckenzie, young guy, 23 years old, so going to AAA, which he skipped over coming up, not a bad thing, and expect him to come back and be a factor in the Indians' rotation later this summer. Again, Indians start a 3-game weekend series in Baltimore against the Orioles. Team won a couple against the Twins, but before that had a 12-game losing streak that they snapped. And the Indians start play 2.5 games behind the White Sox in the American League Central. Time for us to shift our focus, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we're going to go down on the farm. We'll talk Columbus Clippers, the Indians AAA affiliate with the voice of the Clippers, Ryan Mitchell. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out. Now, they say they didn't market e-cigarettes to teens. Fact, more than 1 in 4 high school students are vaping, and 80% say their first e-cigarette was flavored. Vaping is harmful to developing brains. The reason we think vaping is safe? Marketing. Same lies, different day. Tell Big Vape to quit lying.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We shift our focus a little bit from the Indians to the Columbus Clippers, the AAA affiliate of the Tribe, and we welcome in the voice of the Clippers, Ryan Mitchell. Ryan, one of the guys Indians fans are familiar with sent down the young shortstop, Andres Gimenez. How has he been his first week or so down AAA?
Well, the defense, I'm sure Tribe fans remember seeing, is very, very good. He had a game where he had 3, I'm talking about spectacular highlight reel plays. In my time with the Clippers going back to 2009, I'm not sure I saw one guy have as good a game defensively as Gimenez did that day. Obviously, we have seen some pretty good shortstops come through here in Columbus. Francisco Lindor, Eric Gonzalez, Jose Ramirez was a shortstop at one point long ago. And Gimenez, at this point, I'm not quite ready to put him in the Frankie Lindor category defensively yet, but with the plays that he made, the tools certainly are there. Offensively, it's been not quite as smooth, but it's been pretty good. He puts together pretty good at bats. He's had some hot stretches, currently batting .279. It's such a small sample size, you don't want to read too much into any of it. But what you can see is a young man, and by the way, he is a very young man, just 22 years of age, with tools. And at some point, those tools, you hope, develop, and he becomes a consistent performer at the major league level offensively because his defense is already there. He can play shortstop. We've seen him at third base. We've seen him at second base. He's versatile as well. Of course, the Indians love defensive versatility. but he is an everyday major league shortstop as long as he can hit. He didn't do that at the beginning of the season. He did okay last year and shortened the 60-game season. And, of course, because he was up all year with the Mets, lost his rookie eligibility, so he's not listed on the prospect rankings. But this is a guy still just, as I said, at 22 years of age. His best baseball is ahead of him, and it's going to be exciting. He doesn't have to hit a ton, right? If he can hit 270, 280 at the major league level, that would be huge. Of course, in this day and age, 270, 280, that is really doing work. But if he can hit a little bit, he doesn't really have to provide power. He's a good base runner. He can be kind of a cornerstone for that Indians team, which needs defensive help right now.
Yeah, and, you know, they rebuilt his swing up here, and then shortly before they sent him down, and that's kind of why they want him. They want him to get solid with what he's doing, and the average sounds like he's putting together some pretty good at-bats.
He is. He definitely is. He hasn't looked overmatched. Some of the guys on the team right now at the beginning of the season have looked overmatched, and he does not. You know, he'll strike out like everybody does. He'll ground out. He'll fly out. But he's putting together good at-bats and making pretty solid contact. And he also had a stretch where he was hitting really, really well. He went 0 for 5 in his first ball game, and when the sample size is as small as it is right now, an 0 for 5 can really skew your batting average. So hitting almost 280 with one of those on your record means that outside of that, you hit pretty well. So I think there are definitely signs for optimism for Cleveland Indians fans that he'll get back up there probably at some point this year. I don't know how long it will be. Swings take a while. You know, you got to get comfortable with what you're doing. You have to refine maybe your approach a little bit to go with your new swing. So, you know, give him some time to do that. And my expectation is that this is a guy with enough good look to his game. He passes the eye test in a lot of regards, that it won't be long before he's back in Cleveland.
Another name that Indians fans will be somewhat familiar with, Ernie Clement. How is he doing down there for the Clippers?
Ernie is just a ball player. It's fun to watch him. You know, he's a shortstop prospect. The Indians in the Baseball America top 30 prospect rankings coming into the season had 10 guys listed as shortstops. So Ernie had kind of fallen down the prospect rankings a little bit because so many shortstops were on the way up and into the organization from outside from a year ago. But he is definitely a player. I don't know if shortstop is his long-term major league position or not. He certainly looks fine at that position. But then, you know, I don't know if he's got the range or quite the arm of some of the other guys like Gimenez we were just talking about a moment ago. But he can play. You can put him just about anywhere, put a glove on his hand, and he's going to put together a professional baseball game. He was in left field last night in Indianapolis and really made a nice play on a fly ball going back. I said on the air, he made the catch casually but not flippantly. He just knew where to get to make the catch. And sometimes when you have infielders that move to the outfield, you kind of watch their feet and you watch how they move their arms. And you can tell when a guy is not necessarily comfortable chasing a fly ball. They kind of race it to the spot rather than get to the spot and make the catch. Ernie seems very, very comfortable at any spot on the field, whether it's second base, at third base, shortstop, and then in the outfield, as we saw last night. From the offensive side of things, he's among the league leaders in doubles. Now, take into account, we're about a month into the season, and he missed 2 weeks almost with a leg injury. So to be among the league leaders in doubles, playing only half the season, means he's hitting a lot of doubles. He doesn't have a home run yet. He's not going to be a huge power guy at the major league level, but when you are splitting the gaps and as a good base runner taking that extra 90 feet, he is certainly a guy that appears to have the tools. Now, I don't want to put this on him yet because he is still a young player and is not established, but think of a player sort of like a Jason Kipnis, who is just a gamer, who knows the game of baseball, who plays it hard, who really seems to have a joy in playing the game. So that's the kind of player I think that Ernie Clement can be. And he's not quite there yet. Obviously, the Indians felt comfortable having him in on the lineup card for the doubleheader the other day. And I don't think it's going to be too long before they see him up there as well. And, you know, who knows? There are a couple of guys up there with Cleveland who fill kind of a similar role that if they do not perform better, might get swapped out for a guy like Ernie Clement.
Last position players I'll ask you about. A couple of guys who appear to be struggling just by the numbers and Indians fans will know these guys, Oscar Mercado, Bobby Bradley, under 200 batting averages for both of them. Have they been struggling as much as it appears to, they appear to by the numbers?
It's a strange thing. I would not say they have been unlucky. Some guys, in a shortened season, we're just a month in, you can say, well, a lot of hard hit balls, just finding gloves. I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case for either one of those guys. But there have been positive signs. And of course, they're entirely different types of players. Bobby Bradley, a first baseman with power. His job is to hit home runs. And he's still doing that. He had his 8th last night. He's been able to hit home runs to all fields. Just not enough consistent contact, particularly with runners in scoring position, because when he goes to the major league level, his role is going to be that of a run producer. And the batting average with runners in scoring position is not where he needs it to be, quite frankly. The majority of his home runs have been solo shots, which is not his fault. If there's nobody on in front of you and you hit it over the wall, it's a solo shot. But there have not been enough hits with men on base. Oscar Mercado is a different type of player entirely. He has a lot of his value, obviously, in his glove. He can play all 3 outfield positions, and he can play them well. He can cause havoc on the bases. He is 3 for 3 in stolen base attempts this year, but the old saying is you can't steal first, right? So he's got to find his way on base more. And yesterday was a good sign. He had 2 hits. He had a home run. He also had a double. So hopefully that's a sign for Oscar that things are beginning to trend in the right direction. I'd say 2 or 3 times this year, he's had a couple of games, or maybe even a couple of games in a row where you think, okay, maybe he has found his swing and things are going to get rolling, but then it just hasn't yet. That doesn't mean it won't, certainly. He's got a track record. Think back to his rookie year where the Tribe fans will remember he was very, very good up in the major leagues. So if he can get back to that type of offensive performance, there's enough value in the rest of his game that makes him a good part of a major league roster. He just has to find a way to get on base more. And that's true for, a lot of the Cleveland Indians, certainly. And it's the case for a lot of the Columbus Clippers. Of guys who have played half the games, I think there are 5 batting under the 200 mark. Batting averages are down all over baseball, but certainly when your batting average starts with a 1, it's not what you're looking for. And these guys know that. Everybody understands the numbers. Everybody gets the stat packs every day. And you wonder if at some point that doesn't start to weigh on guys and they start to press. And everybody knows you grip the bat tighter, you're just going to find more and more holes in your swing.
Let's shift our focus quickly. A pitcher, Kirk McCarty. Tell me a little bit about him. It's an intriguing guy that has pitched pretty well for the Clippers.
He has. He's going tonight for us in Indianapolis. He's 3-0 on the season with an ERA a little over 4. He's really only had 1 start that you would even say was mediocre, and that was the second time in as many starts against Omaha. So they saw him the first game of the series. We're playing 6-game series in the minor leagues this year, so he pitched game 1 and game 6. So Omaha had gotten a pretty good look at him, and they had moderate success against him. Outside of that, I really enjoy watching him pitch because he's a give me the ball, give me the sign, set the mitt, I'm going to pitch. He's working very, very quickly. He commands his pitches, doesn't blow you away with velocity, but is the kind of a guy that, you think of a Josh Tomlin or a Ryan Merritt that can get outs without the blazing fastball because he really knows how to pitch.
As always, Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Columbus Clippers. We appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Ryan. I appreciate it. I'm sure we will be catching up with you again in the near future.
All right, anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Columbus Clippers. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll be back with you tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Scheduled guest, Jeff Risden from BrownsWire.com and Jake Underwood from WTAM 1100. We'll see you then at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4.